I would like to introduce, Scott McEwen. And Scott McEwen is on the campaign trail with us this week. And Scott is a friend of mine, and he wrote a phenomenal book called Sniper Elite, An American Sniper. And it's a story about Chris Kyle, a SEAL, which I knew. It's a story about American patriotism. It's a story about self-sacrifice, independence, and Scott's here today. And he's going to say a few words, but I can tell you Scott is a patriot. He cares. He's from Oregon. I played for the Ducks. Scott unfortunately went to that other school down the street, the Beavers. And it's every bit the rivalry as the Bobcats and the Grizz. Although I think the score is Oregon, the Ducks have punished them.
Since the Nike money.
Yeah. But Scott will tell you also his book has been picked up by a man who you might know us for a few dollars more. And so that movie will be coming out, and I'm pleased to have Scott with us in the campaign trail. With that, Scott McEwen.
Thank you, Ryan, for the introduction. I came up here and decided to help Ryan, or hopefully help Ryan on this quest that he has to become a congressman from your great state. And I've seen a lot of hospitality even so far. And where you guys are from here is not far from where I grew up in Eastern Oregon. And I would say they're very, very close in attitude as well as in the people that in the state. One of the reasons I came up here was because Chris and I, after we wrote American Sniper and before he was killed, we made a commitment. And the commitment was that we were going to help guys that have come back from the military, not only guys that were injured, but other guys that have got a message for this country. And I think it's become high time that this country realize that we've been at war for 13 years. And we've got a lot of men and women that have come back from that war that I believe can help run this country. I think we're in dire need of leadership. I think we're in dire need of people that have been there and have done that and understand the commitments that are made when we send our men and women to battle. And we're dealing with the aftermath right now. We're dealing with a lot of the guys coming back that need help, a lot of women that need help, that have been at war for a long time. And I think it's high time that we took some of the men and the women that have been in these battlefields across the world and put them in office so that Washington understands that there is a group of people that really love this country and that really care about what's going on in this country. There is no doubt in my mind, 100%, Ryan Zinke is one of those people. He's a patriot. He was commander of Chris Kyle. Chris Kyle has issues with officers at times, which many of the enlisted guys might with SEAL team guys, just because that's his personality. He's a hard charger. People like Ryan had to be the ones that made sure that they stayed within the rules of engagement, that they stayed within the rules that had been placed upon them so they were not in trouble. But Ryan is one of the guys that, to a man, the enlisted men loved and trusted. And when Ryan said, take the flag and run it up the hill, they took the flag and ran it up the hill. And they had that kind of leadership from the command when Ryan was in charge of things and when his fellow officers were in charge of things. And that's why this military that we have is such a great organization. It's because of people like him that really do care about men and about the country. So I've made a commitment to come out here and help him and try and get him into Congress. Even though it's not my state, I live in Southern California. Our state is done. I mean, there's nothing. there's nothing we can do to bring it back. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party has taken control, and the state is bankrupt, and it has contributed to the bankrupt system that we have right now. We need true leaders from places like Montana, where Ryan can get elected with the help of people like you guys at these type of events. People that can go to Washington and they're not going to take the party line from either party. They're going to take the line that they know is right for this country. And it's high time that we started putting people in Washington that are not viable, that are not owing to anyone or to any organization in this country other than to the people. And they're true patriots of this country and they're willing to put their lives on the line for this country. You guys are very lucky. You have that person running for Congress from your state right here. And I think that anything I can do to help that cause, or you can do to help that cause, you're not only helping your own state, but you're helping the United States get back to where we can be. Ryan believes we can do it, and because he believes we can do it, and with his leadership, I think people like him can do it. And I haven't always said that, and I know how bad it is. I know how badly this country is in need of leadership. But you guys have got it right here. So I'd like to introduce to you the next congressman in the great state of Montana, Ryan Zinke.
Well, why would anyone want to run for Congress? Yeah, and it's a legitimate question. You look at what's going on. The government spends $1 billion in 3 years to radically change our healthcare system, and what happens? 6 people show up the first day. 6 people. And we've all heard it. If you want to keep your health care insurance, you'll be able to keep it. If you want to keep your doctor, you'll be able to keep it. That was a lot. NSA, Mr. Clapper, who I know, gets up before Congress and says, we are not spying on Americans. 2 weeks later, it's disclosed that every email you've done, every phone call you've made in the last 2 years is neatly tucked away in a database. IRS, they don't like you, they're going to harass you, intimidate you, and senior officials, what? They take a walk. Fifth Amendment, get promoted. Benghazi, a lot. There was incompetence, there was a lack of action, there was a cover-up. So I think it's time that we stop telling lies, and stop breaking promises, and let's tell the truth. So what is the truth? 47 million Americans are on food stamps. 1/3 of Americans can't pay their bills on time. 80 million Americans are out of the labor force. We have a $17 trillion debt. And probably what's worse is that no one trusts the government. If you were to ask that question, do you trust the United States government? Does anyone? As a SEAL commander, 23 years, I can tell you I fought in probably 60 countries. And I've seen what happens when a people no longer trust their government. And that's happened in the Middle East. Never in my lifetime did I think it was here. So what's happened to Washington? What's happened to America? And it doesn't seem to matter, the downward spiral. It doesn't seem to matter who we send, because that downward spiral doesn't seem like we can stop it. I mean, the Tea Party hasn't stopped it. The Republicans haven't stopped it. The Democrats haven't stopped it. And that's why I'm running. Because in the military, your last option is you send in the SEALs. And I think it's time to send the SEALs to Washington. In my career, I spent 23 years in. I fought in Kosovo, Bosnia, Iraq. And the best thing the SEALs do is they define a mission. And what's the mission? I want to restore this country, the same country, the same state that I grew up in. That state, it mattered whether you worked hard, independence, self-reliance, those were values. It didn't matter whether your neighbor's barn caught on fire, whether he's a Republican or a Democrat. What it mattered is that you put it out, because that was the right thing to do. In the military, I didn't care who was beside me. As far as the political beliefs, I cared the merit of the person. There was a time when we trusted government. And
when it came to welfare, it was the last option and not the first. And the American dream of what? Owning your own home, having a good job and sending your kids to school, that was a real dream. And that was an expectation that every American had and should have. But when 1/3 of America can't pay their bills, and 50% of the college graduates can't find a job in their vocation, the American dream is not there for everything. So what do we do? What do? I spent the first 2 months touring around the country and talking to leaders in the industry, including the railroad, and went to the top. Went to people that have an interest in Montana, and the consensus is the same. Is we're not going to cut our way out. This last budget that came up, a great compromise, $23 billion worth of savings over 10 years. It's less than a rounding error. It doesn't do anything to cut. Matter of fact, government grows. So if we're not going to cut our way out, we can't tax our way out. The only way out is we got to grow our way out. And the way to grow our out is get government out of business. The consensus across the board is government is now an adversary. And they're stifling American industry. In Montana, we're blessed. We have water and we have resources. But we got to get at them. And the resources nationally is energy independence. Imagine a world where we weren't held hostage by foreign interests. You know, if the United States Navy left the Persian Gulf, you couldn't get a coke bottle out of the Persian Gulf without Somali pirates taking everything. We have an opportunity to be energy independent. The energy independence will bring back manufacturing because the price point of natural gas will be low. We'll have jobs in Montana, and we'll have security for our kids. And my daughter is a Navy diver. She married a Navy SEAL. I don't want my kids, I don't want your kids to go overseas. Like corn oil. Not if we can produce it in this country. Last, we need to bring truth, grace, and honor back to D.C. A huge difference, the change, has been that our reference point in America is about truth and it's about Constitution. And the Judeo-Christian values count. Because a lie is a lie, and it matters. But when the reference point of America becomes a poll, what you can get away with, and not truth, that reference point is a change. And must. As a SEAL commander, I can tell you I was feared. And it wasn't because we had great training, great kids, okay leadership. It was because what we stood for. We stood for the Constitution. We stood for our values. Our values are better. Our values as a Republican Party are better. Because we believe self-sacrifice, independence, self-reliance, and freedom. We believe in creating opportunity and not entitlement. And we believe that America needs to lead. That's America. So what I'm asking you for is your support. And it's not going to be easy. I understand they even have trackers. They do. But again, our values are better. And all I'm asking you for is your support. I'm asking you for prayers. I'm asking you for your confidence that this country can be changed. And I'll leave you with this. Went back to D.C., they live in a bubble, they don't get it. I went to about 7 senior congressmen, both in the House and Senate. And I asked them, eye to eye, is it fixable? Is it fixable? There was one guy out of the 7 that said it was. Absolutely. And that was New Gingrich. The rest of them, well, it's hard. It's time consuming. It's all those excuses. And I'm going to go with Newt. I think we can fix it. Because we are tough enough to do it. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. If you make sure you sign up on the way out. We have our campaign staff here with Dave helping us. Brad, thank you for coming. So I'll take any questions, and we'll talk about truth. So if you have any questions, love to take them. If not, thank you very much, and we're going to make the East and West in Montana. We're going to bring the East and West together. I kind of joke that it starts at the Shriners Camp. It's always the East and West, and I think every other year we need to do North and South. And we'll give Billings and Missoula and cellulite. But the other thing is, of course, the Republican Party. And we talked about this, is that the Democrats lie, the Republican Party likes to circle the wagons and shoot in. We need to unite as a party. Many of us are libertarian in thinking about a lot of issues. But if you vote libertarian, you're a Democrat. Because you're voting Democrat. And that's the message that the Republican Party has to be unified. Because with Steve Daines, they're going to run a libertarian candidate, just like they ran one against Denny. And we as a Republican Party have to unite. United we stand, divided we fall. I wonder where I heard that before. So, thank you for coming. And if you have any questions, I'll take them. John.
As a freshman representative, candidate, I don't really have a comment. That's reality. And so you're trying to think your way through all this. What are your priorities for that first year? What do you really focus on to really put your energy on?
Good question. So why are companies like Oasis and the railroad, why are they supported? Certainly not the vote. You one vote, and this is why it's important. Montana has one Congress. We're one of a few states that do. If you hold your message tight, you can hold the bully pulpit, because you do represent Montana as a state. And if you go outside Montana, Montana has done a very good job of image creating. What is the image of Montana when you go out? It's freedom, hard-working, independent, breadbasket. Now, when you live here, it's a little different. But given that image, and if you keep your message tight, you can move the needle. What SEALs do really well is their academies for change. SEALs are not the regular Army or the big Navy. We don't do the heavy lifting. What we do is we affect change. And part of that change is getting a vision of what our message is. As a military officer, you can't ask people to rally around the flag, charge up a hill, unless you know what you're charging for. As a Republican Party, we need to get better at creating vision, short and sweet, so people know where to plant the flag and how to charge. Priorities, Energy independence. I'll camp out in front of the EPA and be a thorn in their side every day if I have to. And they're not going to like it. But being a former SEAL commander, you have weight. And people will listen, and if you stay disciplined. But if you wander off and are not disciplined, then you'll lose your opportunity. So that's the play. Great question. Yes, sir.
22 veterans killed themselves today. I know that the VAs have a really hard time. It took my claim to get through almost a year. What are you going to try doing about that backlog with just that statistic of 22 veterans killing themselves today? And I was an Navy boy, just like you, never SEAL.
Like they have to serve. And believe me, I don't think the SEALs are any better than anyone else as far as the veterans who serve the country. We're all good. My son-in-law, I think he's on his 9th deployment. He spent more time in the last, since 9/11, away than he has at home. He comes back, he drives down the middle of the road. He scares me when I drive him. He's got a college degree, a smart kid. But you're right. I mean, guys coming back, if they spend that much time away, they need some help. Some of it is the veterans, not everyone's a victim. And so the VFWs, the American Foreign Legion, can be a critical part in helping. The Montana way is help our own. The veterans have to help their own too. So I'm working very hard with the VFWs to try to move from a bar environment to a coffee shop bar environment to try to get some of the younger veterans to participate in the VFW, because there's senior mentors in the VFW and the American Legion that can be helpful. No one that I've talked about or heard from veterans, and I go across the state, has a problem with Fort Harrison. In fact, they're very complimentary of Fort Harrison. I think Fort Harrison is doing a pretty good job. I think the Billings Clinic is doing a good job. The VA itself, for processing claims, they're just like every bit of, every part of government gone bad. In Shinseki, I know Ken Shinseki, personally. I think he's a good man, but the bureaucracy, they're not incentivized to do it. You got to lean on it. Being bigger, and you look at the funding for VA, the funding has gone up every year for the VA, but the service hasn't gotten any better with as much money they're putting in. Some of it's inundated, some of it's victim, but your answer is this: they've got to lean on them. And like everything else, the government's got to evolve. It's just not throwing more money at problems. They have enough money. It's just not going into places they need to. And the veterans, we have to stand up to veterans. Police our own, not everyone's a victim, and then reach out and take care of our own.
Zach, I want to add